What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Origins with me, TheOneIntegral. Today we are going to be covering another new Alolan Pokemon, this time Oricorio, who has 4 different forms or styles across each of the 4 different islands in the Alola region, so it's a very interesting Pokemon to look at, especially because of where it gets its inspiration from. But let me know before we start, or once the video ends or whatever, feel free to just suggest more Pokemon down below for me to cover in the future episodes of Pokemon Origins, whether those be Alolan Pokemon or other Pokemon we've seen before. But for now, let's just jump in and start looking at Oricorio. So, its Japanese name is Oratorio, and it is the dancing Pokemon. As I mentioned, it has 4 different styles, and its first style you can see here is the Powell Style and a Fire Flying type. We also have the Pom Poms Doll, which is an electric flying type, the Powell Style, which is a psychic flying type, and then the Sensu Style, which is a ghost flying type. All 4 of these styles have the same sort of height and weight. They're all 0.6 meters or 2 feet and weighing 3.5 kilograms or 7.5 pounds. They simply look different depending on which island they come from in the Alola region. So, as obviously we can't really look at them individually here. We don't know what the shiny form of any of these forms looks like, or any of these styles looks like yet, so we're going to skip over that for the moment. And obviously evolution wise, I would think it wouldn't evolve, because obviously it's got this nice, very unique thing about it, 4 different styles, 4 different islands. It could have an evolution similar to Shellos, having the two sort of forms for Sinnoh. We could see an evolution of Oricorio, but for the moment I'm saying it's in my mind, I wouldn't see it having an evolution, but that's just me. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the styles and look at what they're like before moving on to reading about them, and then moving on to looking at the style, but where it all comes from, I suppose. First up we have the Powell Style, which is a small red coloured bird, with Oricorio this time. It's red and black basically, it has these extra black feathers across its wings and also on its tail as well, so it's sort of double shaded here I guess. And it also has these 2 thin pink legs, each with 4 claws on them, 3 on the front, 1 on the back, and this continues across all of the the styles of Oricorio. They're all very similar in terms of generic body shape, but they have different wings, different colours and such. Oricorio also has a small hat-like object atop its head, with these 2 spiral-shaped additions either side of its head as well. Whether these are acting as ears or not, we don't really know. They could be looking like an earring or something like that. Right now, we don't really know if they're ears or if they could be anything else really. It also has a small pink beak, and as well as this, we have white pupils with actually blue eyelids on the Powell Style for some reason, whereas the other styles just have eyelids that are similar to the main colour of the body. So who knows what that's about. Moving then to look at the Pom Pom Style. Obviously this is a yellow bird instead of a red one, and it actually has some different shades on its body. It has a nice pale yellow upper body with some brighter yellow feathers across on its wings and on its feet and also on the top of its head, and then it has a cream lower body with the legs coming out just then. So it has got sort of like different shades as opposed to the red and black of the Powell Style. As well as this again, the thin pink legs, as well as a pink beak, and once again white pupils. No eyelid on the Pom Pom Style either, so that's a bit different to the others. But then moving on to the Powell Style, we have, yes, a pink bird this time obviously, but there's actually a lack of visible wings here for this style. There's no wings coming off its arms. It seems like a humanoid Pokemon almost instead of like a bird one, but it's a bit weird, but it works still. And it has this nice pink and white skirt down, on its lower half, and a similar sort of thing as a headpiece, with a pink sort of circle and then white feathers coming out of it. And it's also holding these pink and white feathers in its hands as like swaying leaves in the breeze sort of thing. And it has these, again, the pink legs hidden beneath the skirt, with once again a small pink beak and white eyes. Then the final style we have to look at, which is the Sensu Style. This is more of I'm going to call it pale purple / sort of like ghostly blue is the colour it is, and it has these actually, different to the other ones, nice swooping colourful wings rather than the, sort of, I guess the closest to it is the Powell Style, but it has different sort of wings, and these are patterned with sort of a gradient here. We have purple on the main body, with then pink and blue coming off of them. And at the end of these wings we also have these fan-like hands, as well as this also fan-like headpiece at the top of its head, as well as these little extra sort of things that come off like feathers almost. But once again has these thin pink legs and a small beak, and it also has a blue eyelash-like marking coming off the side of its eye, as well as having white pupils once more. The only style that's had something similar to that is the Pom Pom Style, which also has these yellow, sort of markings around its eyes. So what do we learn from, not the Pokedex or the site in general about each of these styles? Well, we know in general for Oricorio it can change its style by sipping on the nectar of certain flowers, i.e. flowers on each island, so I'm guessing Oricorio is going to be able to change form. You're not going to have to catch, it's not like Shellos where it'll just be like, if you catch in West Sinnoh you get this one, if you catch it in East Sinnoh you get this one. You can change it possibly somewhere in the Alola region. But the Baile style Oricorio are actually very passionate, they're very fiery, hence their fire type, and when it dances, power fills its body, and when it also dances, it can send downy fluff sort of flying through the air, and it can use this to attack by setting the fluff alight and having a nice fiery dance to attack with. So it's pretty cool in my opinion there, the Baile style. Then also we have the Pom Pom style. Instead of being passionate, this one's actually a very friendly style towards people, and it always likes to dance to encourage people to feel happier if they're sad or glum or down or whatever. But this dancing also causes its feathers to charge up some static, so if it dances for long enough it can attack and unleash an electric shock to its opponent. Works out pretty well there. Then the Powell style, again it's a different sort of personality, it acts at its own pace it says, which basically means it's very laid back, it's calm, or do what it wants when it wants, but it can actually sharpen its moves through dance, and dancing also increases its psychic power, so better watch out there. And it's said that the dance that Powell does expresses gratitude to the guardian deity Pokemon of each of the islands of the Alola region. Then finally we have the Sensu style once again. This style is more quiet and collected, whereas the first two are sort of out there and active, and the last two are more quiet and laid back. And Oricorio, the Sensu style's dance, collects nearby spirits to borrow their power to aid in battle. And people from Kanto are also reminded of their homeland by the dance that the Sensu style goes through. I wonder why that might be. So then we'll go through and have a look at the origin of each of these sort of styles and birds. First up, obviously the generic Oricorio, and overall it's a concept inspired by the Hawaiian honey creeper, which is basically a bird you can find, it's endemic to Hawaii. It's nectar drinking, very similar to how Oricorio can change styles, but it also varies in colour. There's loads of different types of this bird, so hence sort of the inspiration there. But in particular, the Baile style is based on the flamenco, and in particular the Baile dance. Baile being Spanish for dance, so it's basically a Spanish sort of dance bird Pokemon. But the flamenco dance is actually based on passion and emotional intensity, very similar to the Baile style sort of personality in general. Moving on to the Pom Pom style, as you might be able to guess, it's based on cheerleading or using pom-poms in dance in general, hence the pom-pom-like feathers, and this actually links in with the fact that the pom-pom style always likes to cheer people up, make them happier, hence, dancing around, hence that's what cheerleading is basically for, it's basically to pump people up and make them feel happier, so that is that there. Moving on to the Powell style, it's based on the hula dance, which was a dance style developed in Hawaii. Who would have guessed? And Pow is actually the Hawaiian word for grass skirt, so hence, it's just based on the hula dance. Hence why we haven't really got wings for this style, we've got more of the feathers you're shaking about, so it's different. But yes, based on the hula dance, so we had Spanish with the Baile style, we had sort of American, I suppose, with the cheerleading, and now we have Hawaiian here with the Powell style. And finally, the Sensu style is actually based on Japanese styles of dance, so we have the fourth one to complete the quadro here, I don't know. But Sensu is actually the Japanese word for folding fan, so it links in there, and also hence the reference to Kanto just now, where people from Kanto are reminded of their homeland, because actually Kanto is based on a region in Japan, so it links up there. It's a little Easter egg, I suppose. It's a nice way to do that. But that's the sort of the inspirations of each of these different forms of Oricorio. But if we look at the names now to finish up before we look at the sizes, we have the Japanese name is Odoridori, which is sort of a combination / mashup of Odori, which means dance, and Tori, which means bird. So Odoridori dance, or Odori Tori dance bird sort of thing. But the structure is actually very similar to Oratorio, which actually means vari-coloured, hence it's like a variation of colours, which again links in here with Oricorio having 4 different colours and styles. So it's like, a dance bird that's many-coloured. Works out pretty well there. Then we have the English name, which is Oricorio, which is actually a combination of Oriole and choreography. Choreography obviously being a reference to, dance choreography and stuff there. But Oriole is actually sort of a group of birds that, are loads of different colours and stuff. So it's, Oriole is like a section of birds that are very colourful, so it links in there. Then we're going to look at 2 more names here for Oricorio, and since obviously the Sun and Moon are the first games to be out in Chinese, we actually have Chinese names for these new Pokemon. So the Cantonese Chinese name for Oricorio is, I don't speak Chinese, so this is going to go terribly, is Famu Neo, and this is a combination of Famu and Neo, which mean respectively fancy dance and bird. So fancy bird, dance bird sort of thing, very similar to the Japanese name. And then we also have the Mandarin Chinese name, which is Huanyu, which again is a combination of Hu and Niao, which again mean fancy dance and bird. I just thought I'd throw that out there, so obviously because we do have new names and new languages basically that Pokemon are now in, so that's pretty cool in my opinion. But finishing up now, before we finish up, we'll look at the size of Oricorio. Now of course each of the styles is the same size. Overall they're the same height. I'm not doing this from heights from feet to the top of the head, since obviously they're birds. We generally measure birds on wingspan, so I got the wingspan of the Pom Pom form, measured that out, sized it to that, and basically made each of the other birds the same size. So they should all be a similar size in that form, or in that sense. So that's, they're pretty small birds, I guess, about the size of a big bird, as you see like a pigeon or something in real life. So nothing too huge, but nothing too tiny either. But that is going to be it for this episode of Pokemon Origins, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button down below, and let me know again what other Pokemon you'd like to see covered in future episodes. This is it for me though. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.